If you're feeling numb, unmotivated, emotionally flat, or like nothing brings you joy anymore, maybe you've just exited a toxic relationship. Maybe you were trauma bonded to someone with narcissistic or borderline traits. And now that it's over, instead of feeling free, you feel stuck, you feel depressed. Life is just gray and meaningless. I'm Lise Leblanc, therapist, author, and life coach, and today I'm talking about what might be happening in your brain after you get out of an emotionally volatile relationship and how dopamine deficiency can play a major role in the emotional crash that follows. I will also give you some concrete strategies at the end of this video to help support your recovery, from supplements to daily habits to potential medication options that you can talk to your doctor about. Let's dive right in. When you are in a trauma-bonded relationship, your nervous system is on a roller coaster. There's love bombing and idealization, followed by emotional withdrawal and rejection. What feels like pure love and adoration is followed by silence or emotional cruelty. Highs, then crushing lows. This intensity floods your brain with stress chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline during times of chaos and conflict. Then when you make up, you get this intense emotional reconnection, passionate sex, and your brain gets flooded with dopamine, the feel-good chemicals tied to reward, motivation, and meaning. And you feel relieved and rewarded. And as the relationship goes on, sometimes just breadcrumbs of attention or affection can do the trick. And over time, you become addicted, not just to the person, but to the toxic cycle. Your brain starts to equate chaos with love and intensity with passion. Now, fast forward to the breakup, and your brain is no longer getting all of that chemical stimulation. And if your dopamine levels were already low in the first place, maybe due to trauma, burnout, ADHD, depression, hormonal imbalances like low testosterone, porn addiction, or any other addiction, or even another mental health condition that I didn't mention. And when this stimulation isn't there anymore, you experience a biochemical crash where you can't focus. You have no energy, no drive, no real desire to do anything. You feel like your life has lost all pleasure and meaning. So this roller coaster relationship overstimulates the reward system in the brain, especially the mesolimbic dopamine pathways. And over time, the brain becomes desensitized, meaning it produces or responds to dopamine less effectively. This is similar to how addiction works. With your stress response still highly activated, you end up with high stress and low rewards. So you may feel anxious, hypervigilant, irritable, and also emotionally numb. Over time, this results in a state of emotional burnout, often described as limbic system hijacking, where the brain and body are stuck in survival mode, but the motivational reward system is shutting down. Some of the symptoms of burnout can include apathy, low motivation, inability to feel pleasure, fatigue, emotional flatness, obsessive thinking, and emotional flashbacks. So, someone with dopamine deficiency may gravitate toward intensity, and it's not because they enjoy pain and drama, but because those moments of conflict and reconnection make them feel alive again. It's the only time their brain is giving them that hit of dopamine to give them that pleasure, that drive, that meaning. So in contrast, calm, stable relationships just don't provide that chemical stimulation. And when the brain is used to dopamine being tied to chaos, then peace can actually feel very boring, empty, even threatening. This is why people sometimes say things like, I know it's toxic, but I can't stay away from that passion. I hate the drama, but I can't stop thinking about them. At least I felt alive with them. So this is not just psychological, it's biological. Your brain has adapted to a relationship that created dopamine through intensity, unpredictability, and emotional extremes. And now that it's over, your system is searching for that stimulation that you got addicted to. And it wasn't just the highs themselves, it's the anticipation of those highs. It's the waiting, the wondering, the hope, the buildup. That tension before the release is what often triggers dopamine. So your brain wasn't just addicted to the person, it was hooked on that cycle. And now that it's over, your body isn't getting those dopamine hits anymore. And your nervous system is still wired to expect them. It is still anticipating those rewards. So your mind is spinning, it's replaying moments, analyzing what happened, obsessing over every detail, not just to make coherent sense of it or to get closure, but because the search itself can bring a dopamine hit and give you that temporary relief. And this is why the rumination itself can become compulsive and addictive. It mimics the anticipation, and your brain is chasing that dopamine spike that it used to get from your toxic partner. But over time, it just deepens the crash because there's no actual reward that's coming at the end of all this thinking. It's just more stress, more confusion, more emotional exhaustion. So if you're stuck in obsessive thinking, just know that you're not crazy, but you do need to work on rebalancing your nervous system, specifically your dopamine system. First, I would strongly suggest that you work with a functional medicine doctor or a naturopath if you can afford to, because they treat the whole person, not just the symptoms. They also tend to run much more comprehensive testing, so not just basic blood work, but they take a deeper look at things like hormone panels, nutrient deficiencies, inflammation markers, and sometimes even neurotransmitter metabolites. While they can't measure brain dopamine directly, functional and naturopathic practitioners often use these broader indicators along with a full symptom picture to identify those imbalances so that it's not such a guessing game. They may use targeted supplements like L-tyrosine, omega-3s, or rhodiola, along with nutritional changes and lifestyle protocols to help support healthy dopamine function. If you only have access to a regular doctor, that's okay. They will run some blood tests, but if they tell you that everything looks within a normal range, it may not be correct. And if they prescribe an antidepressant, it will probably be an SSRI, which is designed to increase serotonin, not dopamine. So if your symptoms are rooted in dopamine deficiency, an SSRI can actually make those symptoms worse. So if you suspect that you have dopamine deficiency that's turned into depression or burnout, it might be worth exploring a dopamine acting medication like Wellbutrin with your doctor. There's also a lot of natural things you can do to support your dopamine system, including getting daily sunlight, especially first thing in the morning, exercising regularly, even if it's just 15-20 minutes of strength training or brisk walking. Eat more protein-rich foods and less sugar and processed carbs, which can spike your blood sugar and crash your mood. Consider cold exposure, like a cold shower. As unpleasant as it is, it does activate your sympathetic nervous system and triggers a sustained release of dopamine without the crash that comes from more addictive sources. Even just 30 or 60 seconds at the end of your regular shower can help reset your stress response and improve mood, focus, and resilience over time. Also, cutting back on alcohol, marijuana, and other recreational substances, porn, all that social media, video games, it can also make a very big difference. Improving your sleep, going to bed and waking up at the same time each day. This helps reset your circadian rhythm, which plays a direct role in regulating dopamine. So building structure and rhythm into your daily routine helps. If you struggle with this, you may want to read a book like Atomic Habits, which can really help you create those small micro habits and sustainable changes that create positive momentum. Also, try to reconnect with activities that used to bring you joy, even if they don't feel rewarding right now. That sense of flatness doesn't mean the activity isn't helping, it just means that your brain is still healing. Over time, as your dopamine system recalibrates, those sparks of pleasure and motivation will start to come back. So, if you're stuck in rumination, depression, you feel emotionally numb and hopeless, if you're someone who feels better in crisis than in calm, if peace feels empty and boring, if you keep chasing intensities just to feel alive, if you found yourself caught in cycles of sex, love, or porn addiction, you're not alone. These patterns are often attempts to self soothe a dopamine deprived system. When your brain isn't getting those natural hits of motivation and pleasure, it will start chasing that intensity because you're trying to feel alive again. That's why it's so important to gently retrain your nervous system and build healthier, more sustainable sources of rewards. But healing is absolutely possible, and you deserve to feel joy again. You deserve love without having to suffer for it. So if you're in this situation right now, consider working with a therapist and a naturopath or doctor who understands trauma, emotional burnout, and who can help you rebalance your nervous system. You may also want to check out my toxic relationship recovery program that I linked in the description section of this video. If this content spoke to you, please like, share, or leave a comment. It really does help other people find this kind of support. And if you want to go deeper in your healing after a trauma bond, just click on the link above.